In this video of Connor Diocese, you will see a series of snapshots of church activity and something of the challenges that are being faced. These illustrate the sort of exciting things that are happening throughout our diocese as we seek to bring Christian witness to an ever-changing society. More than ever before, it's a time when we need to move forward together as a family, as a team. We need to respect our differences, to learn from each other, to help and support each other, and if necessary, be open to change.
With a footprint covering County Antrim and a little more, the Diocese of Connor includes some of Northern Ireland's most scenic areas, including the very popular North Antrim coast. Arrive in Northern Ireland by sea or by air, and you'll more than likely be arriving in Connor. The main ports of Belfast and Larne are in the diocese, as is the Belfast International Airport. All in all, Connor is full of diversity and is an area of tremendous potential. Belfast is part of Connor, which means the diocese is right at the centre of trade, industry and government. New developments in the city and elsewhere indicated that we may be on a journey towards peace and prosperity. But beneath the beauty and apparent progress, there are some harsh realities. Life remains difficult in many areas. There are an increasing number of challenges and new issues which the diocese must address. Here's one part of the diocese with more than its fair share of problems, North Belfast. The local people called it the killing fields. 20% of all the deaths attributed to the Troubles have taken place in North Belfast. And it has ranked top of the league in terms of deprivation and poverty in a European survey. St Mark's Ballysillin has been in the Ligoneel area of North Belfast since 1856. It sits right on an interface between a Catholic area towards the top of the hill and a Protestant district towards the bottom. Before the ceasefire, it was common to have police and army checkpoints right outside the church. And in recent years, violence has erupted from the Protestant community during protests over Drumcree. It's against this backdrop that the Reverend Paul Redfern works and ministers. He and members of his congregation wanted to bring reconciliation to the area. So volunteers helped him to set up a charity shop in the church hall, which would help people on both sides of the divide.
We were studying and listening to what the Lord was saying in terms of those who have this world's goods, to share them with those who have not. And we felt that we had a lot of things that we could give. Especially thinking of our area with the high levels of poverty and deprivation on both sides. With us sat in the middle, we felt we were a prime site to be able to do something.
Paul recognised the need to reach out to his community in a way that would be practical. Many had been forced to flee from their previous homes. The gun had more influence in North Belfast than the gospel, and it would take more than a sermon on Sunday to reach these people. But with the help of lay members, the church could have a strong witness in the community.
I believe very much in the words of St. Francis, where he said, "Preach the gospel at all times and on all occasions, and if necessary, use words." And I believe it is our actions, the things that we do, that is so important. Our love, our concern, our help, our active involvement, and motivated by our faith, Our faith has moved us to go out into society, out into community, to help, to work, to serve. People have been very generous, have given clothing, bedding, and we have really genuinely been able to help people.
For as long as it can, the church will continue to help, but the old buildings require structural work to secure their long-term future. In recent years, issues like the peace process and the right to march have left congregations deeply divided. Such was the case in Ballymena, where the Reverend Stuart Lloyd is the rector of the 3 churches in the parish. Stuart wanted to reach out to people in his locality, but he felt some projects would require a joint approach with other denominations if they were going to make a difference.
I visited all the clergy of the town, and from that a small group emerged, made up of the Roman Catholic clergy, Church of Ireland clergy, a few of the Presbyterian clergy, Methodist, Salvation Army and Moravian.
But nothing could have prepared the group for what was to happen next. When the Harryville protests hit the headlines, Protestant clergy had to make decisions. Would they condone the actions of the protesters, stand in support of their Catholic neighbours, or sit on the fence? The media wanted answers.
There was the advantage that we were already in contact with a lot of the clergy, and especially with the Roman Catholic clergy, and so we were able to issue letters to the press straight away. Also, being in contact with the Roman Catholic clergy and knowing them well, we were able to act in a way that was sensitive to their needs.
Stuart believes there are lessons to be learned from the situation at Harryville. He understands the fears and frustrations of the Protestant community.
They have a sense that things are going away from them. The certainties of the past are going away, and they are not sure what is coming, and there are fears associated with that. And they want, in many ways, people to identify with them, to hear them where they are. We're aware that perhaps we're always trying to move people on. And I think sometimes the lay people feel that as clergy we don't actually listen to where they are. And we have a programme. It is a programme of Christian reconciliation. And it's a step too far for them at this stage. At this stage they want to be heard. And perhaps when they have been heard, then they may be ready to move forward.
A main lesson from Harryville is that some situations have no easy answers. It would have been easy to make matters worse through wrong words or actions. Perhaps the greatest need is for training for church people in how to deal with difficult situations. A good portion of the diocese is made up of rural areas. Francis Bach moved from the town of Larne to the country parish of Armoy. Churches in rural areas tend to be small and the culture very different.
There's a huge difference. For instance, everything runs at a lower speed. They've always got time to chat. Everyone's related. About a quarter of the people who go to Lochgiel Church come from the same family. This used to be a place where a lot of our parishioners were farmers. Within the last generation, a lot of those family farms have been sold. We do have a number of full-time farmers. Life isn't good. They are very phlegmatic and they're stoical and they're trying to get through.
We may have traditionally looked upon the countryside as a place of tranquility, but in recent years the church has faced an increasing challenge here.
People think that in the countryside we don't have the problems like unemployment and drugs and abuse of all kinds. In fact, we do. We have twice the province's average unemployment rate, 11.4 instead of 5.7. When you're unemployed here, you really are unemployed. There's no finding work easily. our young people are worried about drugs and they'd like to know more about how not to get involved. And as I say, we do have abuse and things. Now, I don't have all the skills to deal with those things. I'm not up to date on drugs. We need people from other parts of the diocese who can come in and share that with us. And maybe there'll be things that we could actually share with other places too.
Whether country church or cathedral, we're all one family in the Connor Diocese. None of us have all the answers. Perhaps it's a sharing of our experience and resources which will help us, as a body, to fulfill our calling. Here's one of the bigger churches in the diocese, St. Patrick's in Coleraine, with about 1,540 families. With such a large congregation, they appointed, trained, and the bishop then commissioned a group of lay people known as Pastoral Area Links. It's this group who now carry out most of the visitation work. Ministry to the whole family is a priority in St. Patrick's.
One of the great attractions of the church can be community, that we're a new community, God's community together, and the fibre of that new community, we believe, is Christian family life.
A few years ago, the church took a courageous and innovative step and appointed a youth pastor. Ian Hanna now coordinates all the youth ministry. Today, Ian, along with other youth leaders in the church, has brought a group of young people to the mainly Church of Ireland youth camp, Summer Madness. Food, fun and fellowship are the ingredients for building relationships with the young people. Sometimes it's the time invested with youth outside the church that can produce the most enthusiastic members inside.
Some people get a picture that church is boring and there's nothing fun about it, and Christianity, oh, they don't do anything fun, but we just show that it's great fun and you can have a laugh.
This year shows it can be fun.
So what can be done to bridge the generations in our churches? Is it possible that young people will actually want to come to church and enjoy it?
You'd happy to become involved in church activities?
Oh yeah, definitely. Love it. Our youth pastor, he's like good crack, and like I'd love to be like him, like just leading people.
Keep young people in church is about relationship, and if they can be happy in being with older people and existing together, they will come to whatever kind of service you put on, because they're not coming for the service, they're coming to be with each other.
The leaders are brilliant, they are so much fun, and they really encourage all the young people and talk to us in private and as a group. We get on so well, all the group. We all love each other, we're big brothers and sisters.
One of the most effective things that we've seen has been in using young people. Ken, the rector, would often say that you use them or lose them. One of the things which I think is an important principle is to get young people involved in playing and participating and leading the worship. So they will begin to get into the practice of doing that and continue to do that as the older they get. And I think that is a really important principle of the fact that ministry isn't just about those who are ordained or about those who are employed. It is about everybody being involved in an active, hands-on way.
One group of lay people who've definitely been involved in a hands-on way across the diocese is the Mothers' Union. These women are part of a thriving worldwide Anglican organisation that has over 750,000 members in 59 countries. Through them, hospitality has been bestowed, marriage and a stable family life promoted, and practical help given. Recently, they've been working to establish a safe place where children from broken homes can spend time with an absent parent. Some have gone on to receive a calling to full-time ministry after developing their gifts through the Mothers' Union. St John's on the Malone Road in Belfast is a church with a strong social conscience. It has strong links with the Mothers' Union and supports projects to help both young and old. Each week, volunteers use their private cars to collect elderly folk in the community and transport them to the church hall, where other volunteers have been preparing a hot meal. For the elderly, it can make such a difference when transport is provided. They'll receive more than a meal when they arrive at the church. Everyone here today will feel uplifted, loved and cared for.
You look lovely in your pink blouse and everything.
It's the kind words and actions, as well as the meal, that will make such a contribution to the well-being of these people. For this is Christian service in action, the sort of unconditional love that gives without asking for anything in return. It's an example of the impact that can be made when lay people work together, pulling their talents and resources. Whether driving a car, cooking or serving, each volunteer makes a valuable contribution, and it's their commitment that makes this venture a success. There are many of the older generation today who have been dedicated church members all their lives and are committed to attend as long as circumstances permit. Should the time come when this is no longer possible, then our challenge is to ensure they're not forgotten. Again, lay people have been playing an important ministry role. Betty Morrison and Brian Littler visit Drumloch House in Lisburn on Sunday afternoons. Together they conduct a service at this residential home for the elderly.
Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven.
Many of the patients are former church members who are now confined to this home. They're part of our church family in the diocese, and bringing a form of service to them is a vital part of pastoral care.
Do not let your hearts be troubled. Trust in God. Trust also in me.
The Reverend Stephen McBride is chaplain at the Antrim Area Hospital. He believes bringing God's comfort to those in hospital is one of the most important aspects of his work. There are many cases of serious illness or bereavement when the ordained clergy is required, but often a lay person would be just as welcome.
As clergy, we would have quite a few things to do in a week, and we would really appreciate help from lay people when the circumstances permit it, coming to visit. And certainly I know people who are in hospital or nursing homes would appreciate seeing a friendly face from a parish, and it also shows the church is a caring institution.
In the shadow of St Anne's Cathedral stands Church of Ireland House, which, amongst other things, is the administrative centre for the Connacht Diocese. Like it or not, administration is a necessary part of any organisation. The Church is no exception. Decisions have to be made, events planned, and priorities in ministry considered. Points of view are taken into account, but those appointed to positions of authority also carry a weight of responsibility. Ageing church buildings and the Troubles have put a huge strain on diocesan resources as population shifts left congregations depleted. To move forward as a diocese, we must address the financial and human needs and grasp the new opportunities of this century. And the vision is not only to maintain what's there, but to reach out in mission, especially to the growing numbers of those with no or very tenuous links with the church.
He called us to plant this new church in the city, this city-style church, a church that would reach the unreached, the people who would not have any connection with church at all.
The Reverend Don Gamble believes prayer is key to reaching the unreached. He'll often come to the Cave Hill to focus prayer on the city he loves.
We have a real heart to see what God is doing, just not in church buildings, but out on the streets as well.
But here's probably not coffee or tea.
Oh, this is just coffee.
It's these vouchers for Curly's off license.
No, we're just showing, okay? Just showing God's love.
Peace be with you. God bless, take care.
We believe in our church that small acts of kindness can achieve great things for God, and certainly servant evangelism is great fun. It's one of the easiest ways I know and most enjoyable ways to do outreach. Absolutely free, no strings attached. They're suspicious because they think, if you're a church, where's your collection box? Here's a cup of tea.
Oh, no, whiskey or a wee vodka maybe.
You'd have to bring that yourself. Then, when they realise that this is a grace gift, they're quite overwhelmed that someone has taken the opportunity and trouble to share something of themselves with people.
There's tea here. There's tea here.
Chocolate biscuit. This is really a faith venture, and it's a response to God's call on our lives. If you take a look around the city today, things can be so desperate and so difficult that really there's no hope without God.
Bringing God's hope to the world has been a function of the church throughout the centuries, and it's happening here in the historic town of Carrickfergus. The newest church in the diocese was opened in 1992 to cater for a new population in new housing developments on the outskirts of the town. The building is functional, the main worship centre doubling as a hall for weekday activities, and the church has experienced dramatic growth. Starting with 20 families sent from its parent church, it has grown to over 200 families. The minister is former professional footballer, the Reverend Alan McCann. He believes the diocese can move forward and experience growth in this new century. He set out to make Holy Trinity, first and foremost, a place where people feel cared for.
I have a wee saying that I often say to them, that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And that we want people first and foremost here to know that people care about them. And in the town, the other people in the town and the other churches would say you have a reputation for being a caring place and a place where people are loved and cared for. And then also praying. We pray for every organisation at the start of September and the start of January. And we ask everybody to come together over 4 hours, and they come and go. And we maybe have 40 to 60, 70 people over those 4 hours coming to pray. Someone asked me here at Holy Trinity, if we grew big enough, would I want a curate? And I said, well, no, I wouldn't, because we could do with a youth worker and a family worker before we could do with a curate, because we don't need someone else to run around and do the ministry of the ordained person. But we need someone to work with young families here. We've lots of parents who are with their first children, and things like parenting skills and support groups for that. We have lots of young professionals with all sorts of ethical questions and questions that we never think about in the church. So we could do with someone there. We have an explosion of young people here, and we could do with a full-time youth worker.
Events like Summer Madness prove that youth haven't given up in church. It's the vision of the diocese to appoint more youth workers. That process has already begun.
My name is Alison Hall-Thompson. I'm the youth aid worker for Connor Diocese. Mission jobs, 2 main areas. Firstly, working alongside individual parishes and youth leaders and developing the youth work there. And secondly, working on a diocesan level and building up a family atmosphere between the young people in the diocese.
My job is to build up the youth movement in the church. We have a very good youth movement at the moment, so what we do is set up things like a new parish youth club, run a youth fellowship. We open a coffee bar on a Friday afternoon for all our young people and their friends to come in after school.
My job is to encourage the children that are in the parish and also the kids that are outside of it, the kids in the area. It's just to let them feel that the church values them.
It's recognised that if the diocese is to bridge the generations and move forward as a family, then we'll need to accommodate diversity. We're the same family. We need each other. Our tastes in music or preferences for tradition should not obscure our vision to fulfil our calling together. We live in a world of change. Let's recognise and respect the differences we encounter.
I'm in a strange position in that the people I work with are generally of one generation, the student age, but the church is much wider than that, and the sort of 0 to 90 thing is very, very important. And surely if we're a family, in my family, our daughter's 15 months, right up to grandparents and everything, there's a unity there, we're together, we love one another, we care for one another, and the church has got to be about that. So we've got to care for the older ones, and also their aspirations and what they want to see happening in the church, as well as older people caring for the younger ones and their aspirations and what they want to see happening in the church. And I think when there's a level of understanding of one another, then there's a level of trust and love and respect, and we can then build together rather than doing our own little thing in our wee corner, rather than doing things together.
We're moving forward together as a family, and in the first year of a new century, new deacons are received into full-time ministry. At a service in Lisburn Cathedral, these committed members of the church act in obedience to God's call in their lives. They are going to play their part in building for generations and supporting the vision of the diocese to go forward as a family.
I would like to see the church, as I said before, bridging a gap for the young people to realise that the old people aren't has-beens and they're past it. There's a lot of life experience there and a lot that they can learn, and also that, for the older people as well, that there's a lot they can learn from the younger people too, to see the church coming together a lot more and to work as one body.
Well, I think older people can bring in the experience that we've gained through life, where maybe younger people can't. So we balance one another out very much.
Over the next few decades, I actually think the Church of Ireland might hit something of a revival. There's been kind of depressing signs recently, and people say church membership is falling, but I actually think what's falling is that people who just went to church because it was what their parents did or what the people in their community did, just out of a sense of obligation. Obviously they're not going anymore, but that means that what's left are people of real faith and vision who are willing to bring the church into the future and to show a real living Christ-like faith to the outside world.
I think the gospel of Jesus, the truth of Jesus Christ being the one who can bring relief of pain and suffering to a world which I think is perhaps at a stage where it's suffering more than it ever has. And I think God has a great work for his church to do in bringing comfort to the lonely and the homeless especially, and I think as well in bringing people into that important life-changing relationship with Jesus.
And so, with the calibre of vision and talent that's waiting to be tapped all across the diocese, as we each play our part, we look forward to having many others join our family in the years to come.
Go in peace to love and serve the Lord.
In the name of Christ. Amen.
I believe we've seen an encouraging portrait of our diocese, which helps us to catch the vision for the future. And today we present to you this vision for ministry and mission with a number of practical things which I think we need to undertake with your cooperation. Please prayerfully consider how you might be able to help in our plans to build for generations in the years ahead.